I know you guys have seen the headlines, you know, is Newark Airport safe to fly in and out of? It's dangerous, delays for hours. I've been a professional airline pilot for the past 20 years, flying in and out of Newark, and this is by far the worst that I've seen it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, is it safe to fly in and out of Newark, and what are the three main causes that I see that are causing these issues in Newark Airport. All right. The biggest factor in the delays in Newark is they're repaving runway 4 left, 22 right. There's 3 main runways at Newark. Usually the outboard runway is used for arrivals. The inboard runway is used for departures. One of those runways is closed, and they started actually closing it in the spring. They only closed it during nights and weekends, so it didn't really have that much of an operational impact. And now it's closed until the goal is middle of June. Why they chose to do this, to close it during some of the busiest travel time, I'm not really sure. I don't know if it has something to do with the curing of the concrete. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because it's closed from now until June. So what happens is when you have clear, beautiful day like this and you're coming into land and you have 2 runways, you can launch people off of, we'll say, 22 right in this case, and then you can have them arrive on the other runway and all as well. You close one runway and you have to have all of the airplanes take off and land on the same runway. So that's going to cause just delays in and of itself. And what happens is when you have visual conditions like this, you can clear airplanes for a visual approach. They look outside, they see either traffic in front of them or they see the runway. They fly the airplane visually, they land, they clear the runway, you launch someone, another airplane lands, so on and so forth. The spacing, I believe the spacing is a minimum of, we'll say, 2.5 miles. So the airplane in front of you, you need 2.5 mile spacing minimum. The airplane behind you will have 2.5 miles. And that's when it's clear day VFR. The problem is when you have, let's say, weather come in, just think of steady rain showers, something like that, you can't look outside, you can't see the runway, so you've got to fly on your instruments. And the problem there is that the spacing for the airplane in front of you and the airplane behind you is going to increase to a minimum of about 5 miles. In some cases, a lot more. All right, so what they end up doing usually is they give you a whole bunch of vectoring up in northwest New Jersey before they have you intercept the final approach course. And a lot of times they'll slow you too from, initially 250 knots, then probably something like 210, 180, something like that. But there's a lot of delay vectors involved, and then you ultimately get lined up to intercept the final approach course, and then you go ahead and land. Now, on a good weather day, what they'll have you do is ask if you have the airplane ahead of you in sight that's landing or the runway. And if you have either, they'll clear you for the visual approach, and usually you go direct towards Buzz is a little aggressive, but maybe towards Gimme. The point is you can usually go faster and kind of cut out some of that long vectoring that you would have on an instrument approach. So let's say it's raining, low visibility, low ceilings. Usually you're going to be taken much, much further out. You're going to be slowed down. You're going to get vectored a lot more. So all of that creates delays. And then at the same time, you have to get an airplane to be able to take off. So you have the spacing requirement between the airplane landing and the airplane taking off. So it just kind of compounds, becomes a domino effect, and the delays just keep getting, worse and worse and worse. And now they do have runway 29. Runway 29 is kind of a weird one. They don't really use it for takeoffs, and they will use it for circling approaches when it's, VFR and the wind's pretty strong out of the west. But when it's solid IMC or poor weather, they don't really utilize it nearly as often as the other runways. Problem is the wind has to be coming out of the west in order to use that approach. Otherwise, it's no good. So those are the problems with the actual runway. And now they had done this before. I want to say it was 2014. They repaved the runway, and they used the departures and arrival rate during 2014 as kind of a baseline for this time. The problem is, I believe the air traffic control staffing was significantly better at that time. So normally during a normal day, all 3 runways are open. I think their target is around 77 movements, which is not just takeoffs or landings, it's a combination of both. From what I understand, that target has been moved back down to like 30 to 40, so it's kind of been cut in half. And I know everybody hates, they hate the airlines, they want to blame the airlines, and I get it. But in this case, it's really not the airline's fault. If I was a paying passenger, I would be incredibly angry at the federal government, who takes in, billions of dollars on fees, not only from passengers, but from the airlines.
The next couple slides are just showing you how much money the government actually does generate from fees that airlines and airline passengers are paying. It's a significant amount of money. I'm not really quite sure where it all goes.
And they're just this antiquated ATC system, which I'll talk about. All that stuff is just it is beyond dated, and they keep kicking the can down the road, and this is the result. And even though it's happening to Newark now, it's really affecting the whole entire air traffic control system. People talk about air traffic controllers. You will not find more professional air traffic controllers than those that are working the New York area. And I'm talking about Newark, LaGuardia, Kennedy. If you ever listen to one of the approach facilities, it is rapid fire. They are moving airplanes better than literally anybody in the world. And they're doing it with equipment from like the Cold War era, and they're severely understaffed. So, they are doing an incredible job with really just the less than the bare minimum as far as tools go. I know my airline gives me every single tool possible to make sure that I do my job safely and effectively. The federal government in this case, they're really not doing us, or the air traffic control system any favors. Now, if you throw in any amount of significant weather or a equipment outage like we've had here in the past couple weeks, that is just going to make things significantly worse. And what they'll do is they'll issue what's called a ground stop. And it's just like it says. You have an airplane that's, let's say in Florida, they're supposed to leave at 12 p.m. to head up to Newark. They'll say, hey, you have a ground stop. We'll give you an update in 3 hours from now. So you're stuck on the gate or at that airport for another 3 hours, and then you'll get either the ground stop will be extended, or you'll get what's called the wheels up time, which they'll say, hey, you can take off at 4:30 p.m., whatever it is. And these obviously, the airplanes need to get to different places other than, where they're going, right? And the passengers need to get to different places, the crews do. So you can just kind of see how this becomes a snowball effect and how it really kind of gets out of hand quickly. And a lot of times what they do is, air traffic control will say, hey, whatever airline, you're allowed to have, let's say, 10 arrivals between 4 p.m. and 4:30. Whatever the case. They're going to use the airplanes that are coming from international that have, 200 to 300 passengers that probably don't have enough fuel. They have customs issues to deal with. So all of those airplanes get priority. And then the Pittsburgh to Newark or the Chicago to Newark, those airplanes will kind of get put on the back burner and delayed further. So this is just, it's a massive, massive headache. And I would say the best bet is to leave really early in the morning or schedule to arrive in Newark early in the morning before the delays start to impact you. Because I've seen as early as, 9, 10 a.m. arrivals being impacted by this. So it kind of depends. So the other big problem is just air traffic control staffing. I believe the target to be a fully staffed center in this case for the New York for New York TRACON, which are referred to as N90, is 58% of desired staffing. That's atrocious, and it's been like that for kind of a long time. This is nothing new. Air traffic control has been understaffed for a while.
Here's a report from 2014 that the FAA made, kind of discussing the future.
And they keep talking about fixing it and modernizing ATC, but I really haven't seen it, and this is not something that you can do overnight. In order to properly train air traffic controllers, especially to work in the New York area, that's going to take years. This is going to continue for probably quite a while, and it'll get better when the runway reopens. But that's not an excuse to not fix the issues now. NACA, which is the Air Traffic Control Union for the National Air Traffic Controllers, and they told the government not to do this, but they moved the facility, it's called the N90 facility, from the New York area down to Philly, and that's basically Newark arrivals. They moved all the personnel down there, but they're actually using the equipment that's still up in the Newark area, and they're doing it via some kind of remote patching, which obviously is not going to work, because I believe in the last 2 weeks there's been 2 situations where air traffic controllers couldn't hear or just they couldn't communicate with airplanes for, I believe, some reports are 30 seconds, some reports are 90 seconds. Whatever the case, think about how much distance, how much ground is covered in a minute and a half for airplanes that are, 250 knots over the ground. That is a long time to be flying, not having any communications. And that's a big deal. The problem there is you have a controller that experiences that. I believe they have what's called trauma leave. So if that happens to a controller, they're going to step away from the job. And I want to say it's like 45 days or whatever it is. But you already have a significantly understaffed facility. And then you have a bunch of controllers that go through this because they're overworked, underpaid, and they go through a traumatic event like this. They're going to take the time off that they need. Now you're even that much more understaffed. So, the FAA or the government, whoever was ultimately in charge, said, hey, let's move the facility down to N90 to Philly. That's going to make more people want to work in this facility. It's going to reduce workload. It's going to be better. It has not been better. It has been, I would say, significantly worse. So that's the second issue. You have the air traffic control staffing. And then, like I said, the third issue is the equipment. I mean, you're talking about, radar scopes and radio equipment from the Cold War era. And we have, I like to think we're the most technologically advanced country in the world. And here, one of the most important aspects of the safety when it comes to airline flying is the air traffic control system, and they're using equipment that is just incredibly outdated. Now, I know that there's been some talk here on Capitol Hill, especially in light of the recent events, about really kind of increasing the funding and modernizing the air traffic control system. But this has been going on for years, and they just keep kicking the can down the road. Is it safe? Listen, like I said before, the air traffic controllers that work the, Newark, LaGuardia, Kennedy, if you listen to live ATC and you listen to, what they do, they are hands down the best in the world. There's no question. And on the other side of that, us as airline pilots, we have tools in our airplane. It's called TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, where we could see other airplanes and it will tell us to climb or descend or, points out traffic. And that's worst case scenario. It is not like we are constantly flying the airplane based on what air traffic control tells us. Yeah, they're going to vector us and tell us to climb and descend and slow to kind of make the spacing work appropriately. But ultimately, we're the ones flying the airplanes. We're in charge of the machinery, and we're very aware of what's going on and just how congested the airspace is. Do I think it's safe to fly in and out of Newark? If you have high blood pressure, it may not be safe because it is very frustrating to be delayed for hours and hours. But other than that, it is perfectly safe to fly in and out of Newark Airport. Like I said, the controllers that are working there have been doing it for a long time. The airline pilots like myself that have been doing it for an incredibly long time. These delays, they're nothing new. You talk about Newark and ground stops. It's, it goes together like peas in a pod. That's just kind of always been there, but it's never been quite this bad. And it's because, like I said, you can have one runway closure and you're fully staffed ATC with top-notch equipment. You're going to have delays, but it's not going to be that bad. You could be short-staffed in the air traffic control facility, but you have all of your runways available and the equipment's good. You're going to be okay. You have, poor equipment, but you have 2 runways and, all of your air traffic control stations staffed, you'll be all right. But all of these things mashed into one, it's a perfect storm. No pun intended.